Glenn, welcome back to the shed.
Thanks, mate.
We've got a great guest to join us tonight. How about I go outside and grab him?
Go grab him.
All right, let's do it.
How are you, David? I'm Glenn.
Glenn,
David. Nice to meet you.
and Jason.
Jason, nice to meet you.
Welcome to the tent shed.
Thank you. Thank you
All
for
right.
having me.
So we start off. What do you want to drink?
Beer.
Beer.
A beer.
Funny that.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna start a timer. I'm gonna say I don't check my phone for messages throughout the show. We basically just set a timer to.
Make sure I don't rabbit on for too long.
Well, mate, we're the same. Sometimes we sit there and go, "Oh my God, look at the time." So,
I reckon if we're going to give out beers, Jason, you should have a beer tonight.
I think I will.
So obviously, Dave's from Ballistic at Springfield.
Yes.
You've got them all
How can you tell?
over the place. Well, I just sort of gathered. You were established in 2016, by the way. No, I'm just
Currently
joking.
in Queensland, yeah.
So I know you don't drink. Why
Yep.
don't we do some taste testing of some beers that Dave bought in a bit earlier?
Yep.
And Dave, I can pour you the rest of that beer, and you can have a bit of a discussion about what he's drinking, and we won't tell him what he's drinking. We'll see if he can guess it.
Oh, you're right.
Excellent.
It's just a blind taste test.
Why not?
All right, let's do it. We're going to start with that then, eh?
Yep.
All right, okay.
Well, you taste test and I'll get
Yeah, so while Glenn pours those, let's start. So we know of Ballistic Brewery because we're based here in Springfield, and there's a Ballistic here in Springfield.
Yep.
But you're not just here, right? You're obviously
all over the world.
all over the world.
Well,
That's
it's
the
Queensland,
plan,
right? Yeah.
Right. So you got other locations throughout Queensland?
Yeah, so we've effectively got 6, I suppose.
Yeah.
Trouble you for a glass.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Golden rule for me.
Is a glass.
It's got to be out of
Oh,
glass.
I can bore you to tears on why, but I won't do it just yet. So the main home is Salisbury. That's
Yep.
where we started. The main brewery is there.
Yeah.
Just down the road from Salisbury, literally a stone's throw away, we have what we call the Bunker Project.
It's not Stone's Corner.
No, it's not Stone's Corner. What we call is the Bunker Project. Cheers. And,
The Bunker Project.
Yes. So the Bunker Project, there are beers or beer process you can use that will turn beers very funky, very sour, very curious. So we have a special place where we do that. We don't want to do it in the main brewery because that'll affect all the other beers and make them taste like things we don't want. So,
Right. So even if you're in the same premise, or
yeah, so
you use some of the same
that we use bacteria and wild yeast and things like that. So
Right.
giving really interesting flavours to beers.
Yeah.
But that's not what we want in our standard beers. Our standard beers, we want to be completely reliable, consistent every time.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with wild yeast and so forth. So that's just down the road.
Oh, right.
Small venue. We have a quality and innovation brewer who does that, Jake, and brilliant brewer.
Yep.
Has used just about every ingredient in the world, almost every fruit, every yeast, and is just brilliant at coming up with new recipes, new ideas, and doing really interesting stuff. So
Yeah, nice.
we're doing that. That stuff we bottle away in 750ml bottles.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll move to some other things later on. But that's our place. When we've been operating for about a year after opening, one of our customers was struggling and was running a small venue down in West End.
Yeah.
They called it Poor Choices, which I think was somewhat indicative of the entire business approach.
Right. that was actually the name of the
That was
venue.
actually the name, P-O-U-R.
Right. Okay.
Trying to play on
Was
the
that,
name.
that next
Yeah.
door to Destined to Fail?
Choices.
Yeah, right.
So we took that over. That's been interesting. That was where we first cut our teeth in hospitality.
Yeah.
I tell people I started this business and have run it for a long time with both ignorance and arrogance. It's I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but it's sufficiently arrogant to think that I can do it anyway. And we thought we could run a hospitality business, so we opened up there. That's a small restaurant and bar. It's a lovely little space. It's got lovely trees out the front down on Montague Road at West End.
Yep.
Just a really comfortable, little bit English or Australian version of an English pub kind of operation.
Yep.
Then a year later, after that, I was introduced to this site at Springfield, the Old Springfield Tavern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say, because it was a tavern there with a
Yeah.
bottle shop on the
Yeah,
end.
that's right.
And it had pretty much everything that I hate about taverns. It
Right.
had the big plastic greenery across the top. It must have had 20 TVs in the place,
Yeah.
disco ball,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. Ghastly. So we gutted it
Yeah.
and rebuilt it, and rebuilt it in what we think now is effectively the ballistic style of our venues. I think I really like how we've got to where we've got to on it.
Yeah.
And that thing just went off like a frog in a sock as soon as we opened it. It was just
It's a
amazing
great
support
space.
from Springfield, and
Yeah.
it's been really good. It has suffered over COVID, but then the people of Springfield, I think, have suffered over COVID more than pretty much any other area in Brisbane. You've had 2 COVID lockdowns and a massive hailstorm. So
that's right, exactly.
I was just talking to the manager there tonight, and it was like Springfield people have been. They had a little bit of confidence knocked out of them after that, and so it's been a real gradual climb. But we're seeing now people are really coming back out, and they're enjoying life again. We're actually getting Christmas party bookings and things like this now. So.
And is that a seasonal thing as well for the area? Like obviously, like we're heading back into the warmer summer months. Where do you think
there's a little bit of that?
Come out and sit in those outdoor spaces.
What we were also finding was that even when numbers were starting to come up, that the actual time people were there was less, and the spend was less, and everything else. So just having to pay off the hail damage, I think for a lot of people probably would have hurt out here.
And I think COVID as well. Like there's a lot of young families out here, so people are going, geez, we don't know if we're going to work next week. There's a lot of tradies that live out here. You know, like you look at Melbourne recently, they've been shut down. And I think people just hold on to their money a little bit more.
Renee, our wonderful bar manager, through COVID, she did all the hard yards, sit in that venue by herself every day with the chef in the kitchen when we were doing the takeaway beers and the takeaway food to sort of keep some sort of money ticking over. And but in the end, she wound up moving back to the coast to live with the parents because her husband had been laid off and so on. So
it's tough.
It's been pretty hard down here. But we really are seeing now. Life certainly coming back into the venue down here, which has been exciting.
I don't know if you can hear in the background the shed dog is going. Christine, do you want to bring him in? We can introduce Huey to the people.
He's not happy.
But he's we can. I don't know if we're picking it up on the audio, but he's doing his nana out there.
He's not happy, is he?
So we might bring him in. I think he'll run around.
He wants to.
We've got some good beers here tonight. Come on.
So let's get back to this. Yes. So we'll pick up the rest of the stores in a moment, right? So I'm not a drinker at all.
You're not a drinker at all. Last time you drank in here was your birthday, and you had a Bailey's.
Don't
laugh too hard.
There was a shot of Bailey's on ice, and it lasted me all night. All right, so I've got. What we're going to do, right, is we've got 4 beers here.
Yep.
And you've poured one of them, so I can't see the cans down there. So I'm going to try and guess out of these 4 beers which this is, and I'll put the cans in order as we go through, right?
Yep. Do that.
Okay, so here he is. Do you want to pick Huey up?
Yeah, it's just around that side.
Where is he? He's running around.
Hey,
Huey! Where are you going? We might as well introduce Shed Dog to the... Here he is. Oh, Huey. Here you go. This is your 15 seconds of fame. There he is. Hey, you want to say hello?
No, he just wants to sit on Mum's lap, mate. He just goes, just let me over there, I'll be alright.
He's a bit quiet, he's sitting there. Alright, so in here, so basically what have we got? We've got Ballistic Beer, and this one is Twang, which is guava and raspberry mojito.
Yep.
Yeah? Hopefully I should be able to. What would that one be?
I don't know, mate.
Minty or?
Oh, mojito.
I don't drink mojitos.
Mojito is up there, mate, so you can have a mint, lime, Bacardi and soda and a normal mojito.
Alright, so and then we've got a low carb pale. So that's what a pale ale, but it's obviously low carb.
It's good for your waistline.
I'll pretend like I know what I'm talking about here. Hawaiian Haze, which is a pale ale. So would I be correct in assuming though that those two would taste similar? You shouldn't taste the difference.
No, quite different.
I drank that when I was in Ballistic a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Was that the trivia night?
It was a trivia night on Thursday night down at Springfield, and I think I was drinking pints from memory.
Yeah. Well, actually, we'll talk about drink sizes because I heard something the other day which fascinated me. So, and this one is watermelon.
Watermelon, that's
watermelon. Yeah, which is watermelon.
Ooh.
What's that, Goss?
Goza.
Goza.
Out of Belgium. So it's a salted. It uses salty water.
Oh.
Basically, so
to make the beer.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you want the story about that now, or when we?
We'll wait. We'll see which one.
I'm trying to find if there's an aftertaste or something, and maybe I don't know. Maybe after drinking the others, I'll distinguish. But that.
The answer's probably on the back of the can somewhere. But,
oh yeah, I know. I'm tasting this one for me. Is
what's it taste?
I'm like, you know when you drink something and you go that tastes like beer, and then there's an aftertaste. I'm thinking it's almost like a watermelon.
Oh.
And you know what it is.
I do know what it is.
Maybe I'm wrong. So I'm going to start off. I don't know. It'll probably because it doesn't taste.
It's probably a little unfair doing it completely blind. Would you let me just tell you roughly what?
Yes, that's probably a good idea, Dave. Let's.
All right. So.
Well, I'm just going to stake that one to start with, and then I'll see if I change. Right? But can you give me some tips? Am I close?
No.
No, okay, maybe it's a pale ale. Look, so my thought process was when I looked at these, I'm like, well, guava and raspberry I should be able to taste, and pineapple I should be able to taste. So maybe if I can't distinctly taste that, it's going to be one of those two. All right, pour me another one. I'll see how it goes. So yeah, you talked. Sorry, we'll keep the story on.
I'll go through them after then.
Yeah, okay. We'll just finish off on maybe your site. So it was the Salisbury, and then that one, and then Springfield.
Salisbury, the Bunker, West End, and Springfield.
And Springfield, yep. So the four.
And then last year, a couple of things came together fortuitously, or not so fortuitously. Quite obviously, for us distributing nationally, the rest of the country is a complete basket case. So while we still sell a lot of cans to the rest of the country, there's no kegs going out into pubs. Independent beer bottle shops were not doing quite as well. They did well, but some did very well. But really, kegs and everything died. So we went back to what our original strategic plan was, which was we'd go back and really focus on Queensland. And we'd set that up as a strategic direction 2 years ago, and probably about 2 days after we decided we're going to really focus on Queensland, not spend a lot of time on the other states, both Coles and Woolworths, through their bottle shop, said we're going to distribute the Hawaiian Haze nationally. And so what whole plan went by the side, and so we focused on
great news for your business.
Oh, massive. I mean, it just just completely changed the amount of product. We had to buy, I think, 5 new big fermenters and extra crew in and the whole lot.
All still made out of Salisbury?
All still made out of Salisbury,
yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay.
But what they did was to take our eye off Queensland for a while, and then COVID basically forced us to bring our focus back onto Queensland, which is where we have quite clearly our strongest fan base, or our strongest supporter base. And so a couple of properties came up for sale through that period. We thought, well, if we want to be number one in Queensland by 2024. We're going to be doing that. We can't do it just by loitering in the bottom right-hand corner of Queensland. We actually need to be a Queensland brewery. So when we say this is a beer brewed from here, it is actually brewed from here as opposed to closer to Melbourne and Cairns. Quite big there to one of your products, but
I don't make it, mate. I just drink it.
But we decided we actually really did need to be far more present in Queensland. So with that, the focus and these 2 properties that came up through that time, we decided we'd seize on them. So the first one was Bagara Brewing Co in Bundaberg, which was a well-operating business up there, well-recognised brand. We've purchased that, and that is now Ballistic Bagara, and Ballistic West End, Ballistic Springfield, Ballistic Bagara. And we're just still building out what that's going to be. We've got renovations to do there. We have a launch next week of a new beer, which we've also launched in our second venue, which is in Airlie Beach, which was a brewery that the gentleman had built, and he was ready to open the tap room on about the 1st of March, I think it was. And
2020.
Everything closed down at the end of February, and I think his wife basically said enough, because he had a full-time job in the mines and so forth, and he'd run a couple of other businesses, and I think the wife had said, right, just enough, let it go, let's go back to being a family. And
perfect for you, right?
Perfect for us, and he set it up brilliantly for us. We were able to come in and take his dream and make it a reality. And, it's just a small.
Did you give him a membership, like a lifetime membership?
Yes.
So it's a small pub.
It's both of these Bundaberg and Airlie Beach are breweries. And it's a little bit like Salisbury in that it's a brewery just with a tap room and a bit of a beer garden outside. So it's not a large premises. It is predominantly about manufacture.
I was going to say, because would that be a bit of a risk in the era of COVID and uncertainty to actually be doing like another Springfield, where I guess predominantly that side is based on patrons,
hospitality.
The outlay is massive too, right? So to fit something out that size like Springfield is a lot of money.
No, this is.
So your capabilities, effectively, you've got more brewing capability through all those sites.
We've got more spread across, and as we've seen in Queensland, the chances of the whole of Queensland being shut down is actually really small. So even when Brisbane gets shut down, we've still got 2 other venues that are generating a little bit of cash for us up the road. But it also means that our presence is in those places. This business talk, I don't know if it's interesting, but
no, definitely no.
While we're there, what we find is that bottle shops around our venues actually sell more of our beer. curiously, that's the best places, is the bottle shops closest to where you can actually go and buy the beer from the brewery.
Yes.
So if we open in Bundaberg and we open in Early Beach, those bottle shops around there are actually now selling a lot more of our beer than previously.
That's right.
And then we wholesale out of those venues as well to the areas around. So we're actually getting our reach out a whole lot more. So it's not just about volume. It's actually I think COVID's really brought about this authenticity, this provenance, this localized kind of thing, and all of those really only come if you're part of that community. And Salisbury, we have an amazing community there, and people have bought in from day one. It's been fantastic. Springfield was pretty much like that as well. It was as soon as we opened, bam, everyone was there. And that's what we want to develop at each of the venues that we go to, where we actually are an integral part of every one of those communities.
Exactly.
So initially, like you talk about the distribution point, because I've seen some of the Ballistic, when I go with my wife into bottle shops, etc., around the Springfield area, some places. So we're just saying that some beers are distributed nationally through those major chains. So then most of your other distribution, like, do you have a larger distribution network, or do you find, like, if you're brewing in Bundaberg, like you said, there's a concentration of bottle shops that buy from you, but the next town, 50k up the road, and that might not? Or?
So the Coles and Woolworths stores, which are your BWS, your Dan Murphy's, your Vintage Cellars, Liquorland, and First Choice.
Wow.
We've got Liquorlands and BWS.
Yeah, because I've seen
we've got one product, the Hawaiian Haze.
Just one beer in there.
Pretty much right across Australia.
Right across Australia.
Nationally, but then in Queensland we'll have 2 or 3 other beers in all of those stores.
In those stores,
Then we've got to go and do so if we win that agreement, they do all the distribution and the hard work of getting it out there. But all of the other independent bottle shops around the place, that's where the hard work starts. You've actually got to go out and you've got to approach each one. You've got to make the sale to them. You've got to make the sales to every pub, to every restaurant, and so forth. And that's harder. So there's staff in, or there's sales reps in Brisbane that are selling. But there's also now sales reps in Bundaberg and in fact the brewer in Early Beach does the repping up there for us.
Wow.
So we're slowly sort of just spreading out and getting the word out about who we are.
I've heard it's a very competitive market, right? Microbreweries and all of these.
Yeah, so it's depending on which lot of numbers, 476 or something in Australia, 400 to 500. Every one of them's got, I don't know, we run 10 different products, and that's 4,000. If everyone's got 10, that's 4,000 different cans. You can't put all 4,000 into Dan's or BWS.
No,
it's really difficult to do it. Even in Australia, the stats today, I saw in Queensland, stats today, 110 breweries, I think, and this is from the government. And when we started working on the craft beer strategy 2 years ago, it was 43 or something.
So it's just numbers.
So it's going nuts.
But are some of those really small? Like just like I know I buy my beer for my kegs through a certain place at Underwood, and it's just a small little place. And they go and they fill up your kegs and off you go. So that would be included.
In fact, that doesn't even include those ones. Like
it doesn't include those ones, right?
Brendale would, because Brendale has a wide license. But it's just growing really rapidly. And it does become increasingly competitive as we go along.
But you've also got that profile, like I said, when I think of craft brewery in this area, something I think Ballistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of Springfield, I can't name any other microbreweries in the area.
Well, it's
right. And it's because they don't have the same sort of retail presence that you would have.
And it's a direction we've gone. I think others are starting to see that and to follow, or I like to think they're following, or otherwise they just make the same business decisions. But there are a couple of others now that are taking multiple sites. But they're really, as one of my directors calls it, where each of these venues is an interactive billboard. You come in, and if we give you a good experience, and you're standing at Dan's and there's 400 cans in a rack, and you're thinking, which one do I want? I had a great night at Ballistic the other night. I'll go and buy one of theirs. I know their beers taste good.
That's right.
I'll do it. So that's a lot of the thinking behind.
And it's funny that I noticed, because it was Dan Murphy's where I saw.
It's the yellow Volkswagen, isn't it? It's
but it was one of those things that, like, I walk in, for me, like, wines, you just turn around and go, oh my God, there's 1,000 bottles here that look the same to me. Cans and cartons, whatever. I couldn't tell you the difference between 4X Gold and.
You're just in the Bailey section. You're in the Bailey section.
Mate, if I had a bottle of Bailey's, one bottle would be a lifetime supply. But for me, it's the brand recognition is I spotted Ballistic.
Yeah.
Because it was like nothing. Oh, there, I know that.
Yep.
And it was through that, which was really interesting.
Alright,
Alright,
Jess.
we're going on to number 2.
Yeah.
Keep
Sorry,
moving.
keep
No,
going.
no,
Okay, you alright? Keep talking, Dad.
No, I just say that's really a lot of the thinking behind it. Now, hopefully, none of my competitors are listening to this. So,
There's not many people
trade
listening.
secrets that are trade secrets.
Trade secrets.
I'm going to go to this one. I'm guessing that's the guava raspberry.
You have done well, my friend.
Oh, look, he's given me a clue. All right, I've got one from one. I'm not sure on the other ones yet, but yeah, see,
This in the fridge today.
that has a very distinct taste that I went straight away. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. So my gut feel is that this is going to be an ale, and then hopefully when you give me the watermelon, I'll do that and it'll be a 50-50 toss-up on those. But that's actually,
You're locking
as
in,
a
Eddie?
non-beer drinker, I normally when I drink beer, I'd sit there at the end and just go, oh my God, but that, I like that.
Yeah, I like this one and the one next door, the watermelon goza. We have plenty of
I might
people.
start drinking it. Yeah.
And at the risk of sounding remotely sexist, for which I will get kicked tomorrow by the ladies in my office, but very often women come up to the bar and say, "Oh, I don't drink beer," and what they are actually saying is, "I don't drink shitty beer because that's what my husband, partner, boyfriend." Gives me.
Yeah.
And I say, well, nor should you either. But let me show you what beer can taste like. And we have 16 taps, 18 taps at Salisbury.
Oh, wow.
And we go from a dark chocolate. It's the Mexican hot chocolate stout. So it's like the Mexican hot chocolate with a little bit of chili in there and everything. Right down to something like this Twain. Now, this Twain is a sour beer. It's been sour with a lactobacillus strain. Same thing, effectively, that makes milk into yogurt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And most people, when you give it to them, the instruction I give them is drink it twice, because the first time you drink it, if you've had beer before, your brain will just go, what's going on here? Because it's so not like any other beers.
Yeah, right.
But then when you have the second mouthful, then you start thinking, oh, actually, I'm understanding what this is. It is a sour flavour. But it's a sour flavour loaded with fruits. So there is some sweetness within that sourness. It's not bitter, but it is sour and has those fruity flavours through it as well. So I very often am quite successful with these. It's much lighter carbonation as well. It's a little bit champagne-y.
That's what I got it. It's like,
That's why Jason likes it.
yeah. No, for me, like I said, not being a non-drinker, like, that would be the difference between, when you can get something like a flavoured mineral water and a soft drink.
Yes.
The texture is different.
Yes.
Like that would be more like the flavoured mineral water.
Yep.
It's a bit
Absolutely.
smoother. The taste is there. It's not just bubbles up your nose. But I love the cans too. Like that's
Yeah, there's a lot of artwork in the cans.
The broken guitar. Who does your artwork?
He was a friend of a friend, and he, as I say to people, I put down the success of Ballistic to three things. 50% of it is the logo. I just think he did a cracking thing with the logo.
Yep.
50% is the quality of my head brewer.
Yep.
He makes amazing beer, and 50% is my business acumen. So,
Of course, absolutely. You definitely need that in the right direction, or else you go nowhere.
So,
if you can't keep the doors open, you can make the best beer you want. No one's going to drink it.
Yeah, or you've got a great supply at home, right?
I do have the largest beer fridge in Brisbane.
I was going to say, how many litres of this specific would you make? Like, the Hawaiian Haze. Sorry.
Well, we would make in a week somewhere around about 7 to 8 brews of it at 2,500 litres at a time, I think.
Wow.
So it goes up and down, depending on season and so forth. But yeah, it's it may even be more than that. But I walk in the morning and say, "What are we brewing today?" And they just look at me and say, well,
"You know what we're brewing today."
It's beer. Yep. So can I ask the question? So the equipment that's actually at Springfield.
Yep.
Is that decorative, or you actually brewing
No. We
that?
do.
So
we do brew it.
Yep.
I'd love to be brewing a whole lot more on it, but it's mostly shortage of brewers and so forth. There is always a shortage of brewers.
Yeah.
So we've had we've also leased, or we've subcontracted it out to a couple of people as well. So Strady Brewing, who started last year but don't yet have their brew kit, they've been brewing on that. Valley Hops Brewing, which is now the new brewery on top of, I hope I'm allowed to say this, but an amazing new brewery going on top of one of the pubs in the valley. Trial batches and so forth they've done there.
Yeah, right.
To get themselves started. So we've done some smaller batch stuff there, because that's about 800 litres. Our normal system's 2,500.
Wow.
So we've got to look at when we're making interesting or not interesting, different. Things. Sometimes doing 50 kegs of 50 litres is too much.
Yeah.
So we'll just do an 800 litre batch. So if we're doing a special, say for Halloween or Father's Day or IPA Day or something, we'll do them off that as well.
Yeah.
So it is a fully functioning brewery.
Yeah, wow.
So how long does it take to brew? Like, so because
A week.
A week.
Well,
yeah.
the actual brewing process is probably 2 to 3 hours. The cleaning, everything else is a few hours after. But then it'll go into the fermenters. It'll sit in the fermenters for anywhere between a week and 4 weeks.
Right.
So like out here, if you were to say you wanted to do 10 flavours out of there, you could pretty much put through lots of different volumes over that period of time. It's not like that's tied up for a week on one flavour.
Yeah, so there's two parts of the brew house
how
to the brewery. There's the brew house, which is that thing with the stairs that's going up. There's the pots all in. That's where you make your 800 litres, and then you move that 800 litres into one of those tall fermenters. So I think from memory we've got 2 800 litres and 2 1600 litres. So we'll do a double batch if we're filling the 1600. If we want to fill 1600, or we'll just do a single batch straight into the 800s. But on the brew house itself, that'll take 2 to 3, 4 hours, depending on what they're brewing. Yeah. But then it'll sit in one of those fermenters for a week to 4 weeks.
So and then to get it into a can like this, like does that then have to travel to a central location where you're canning, or
it
you
does?
Can do that?
That's one of the pains with this. So we don't generally do beers that we can out of Springfield. The canned beers are done at Salisbury because the canning line itself is probably $300,000-$400,000.
Yeah, that's
right. So not going to have that at every location.
Now we can move it because we have stainless steel IBCs and we'll chip it across, but that's besides being a pain in the arse. It's every time you do that sort of thing, you're just introducing a chance of infection in your beers as you go across, and infection is one of the big risks that we have. So sanitisation's got to be spot on.
So what you do out of Springfield might then go into things like for the taps and
so going into kegs is easy. We just pump it straight into the kegs, and then we load kegs onto a truck and we ship them around. That's super easy.
Kegging's easy from. So out of all those locations where you brew, kegs basically no brainer.
Yep.
But you've got to manage like canned stocks for shipment.
They go to Salisbury, and then Bundaberg also has a bottling line.
Right.
Cool.
So you had the bottle before as well. So this.
So that one's done at the Bunker Project, and that's they're really simple. So it's actually just a gravity fed bottle filler, a really simple piece, just like the wineries.
Yep.
But then we'll for the home brewers, we'll then dose this with sugars, and it'll bottle carbonate.
Wow.
So anything out of the Bunker Project is not made last week. It's made 6 months ago or a year ago. So we're only up to our third release, I think, or fourth release out of the Bunker Project. We've been running for about a year or so now. So we now have all of these 8 barrels and containers of beer that's aging.
Storing beer in 8 barrels.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do that as well. So
I assume that was always just for like
whiskies
and stuff.
No, we do, and for exactly the same reason. Particularly things like your stouts. We've had an amazing Russian Imperial stout. We're on our second year for that, and that thing's 13-14%.
Wow.
This one we did was amazing. We got Beanley rum barrels, still with a bit of residual rum in the barrels, and we filled them with the stuff and. It was one of those little learning experiences that we have that it went in there and we tasted it out of the barrel over time, and it was actually what we call hot, where you can still taste the alcohol coming out of it.
Yep.
And at 14% you'd expect to, but then we took it 6 months in the 8 barrel, and then we put it into the stainless steel IBCs and threw them into the fridge for 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, it just came out. It was the most smooth, beautiful beer, lost all of its heat and just melded in together, and just an amazing beer. So
that's unreal.
I know, it's amazing the science that goes behind what we just said.
The storage, this cost to store all this stuff. It's not cheap.
No,
to put something and put it away for 6 months. Like you've got to have a lot of space to hold things.
Yeah, so that's an off-site thing in a warehouse, and we just rent a little bit of space, and we built a big. It's not a cold room; it's an ambient. Or it's not an ambient. It's a temperature control room. So we run air cons in there to keep it down. We were originally going to do it at Salisbury, and as we look more into it, that shed gets up to about 40 degrees during summer. My brewers lose quite a bit of weight during summer.
The tension's like
So that's So how do you factor that into every beer that comes out of a tapping cost? Do you work it back that far?
again, another question that's been asked of our financial control, and we're still trying to get on top of that for those. But
yeah, because that's something you got to look at, right? Because if it's costing you this much to hold that beer,
Yep.
every glass has got to make up that cost at some point.
Yep.
And you're saying this stuff's sitting there for 6 months,
Yes,
right?
but it's the same. It's the same.
But I guess it's cyclical
thing
as
that
well,
wine
right?
goes, or the better wines go through, and
Yeah,
so forth as well.
that's
So
right.
it is a thing, and as our understanding of this process grows, then we'll be able to better address
I
that.
didn't realise beers like sat that long. I thought
Only some. I mean,
Only
these
some.
cans here are like I won't say yellowtail, but they're like your beers. These ones, you should be drinking as soon as they come out.
Yeah.
Beer doesn't. These sort of beers don't get better with age. These beers are like milk, and the longer you have it, the worse they are.
The worse they are.
Well, it sounds like a real numbers game of managing, demand obviously through distribution and ebbs and flows in relation to supply.
It is, and we want our customers to be drinking really fresh beers. We've got one beer we call "Sleep When You're Dead," and it has on it what we term the dead by date.
Right.
And that dead by date is 8 weeks. Now, most beers you'll see, particularly if they go through DANs or BWS or something, have to have a minimum of 9 months. It's just a requirement.
Wow.
Okay.
But we really would prefer to have our beers like 3 months maximum.
Yeah.
As
It's like a drink by date, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we used to have when we were just distributing straight into independents. When we sold our soul to the devil and went elsewhere, we have to wind it out. But because we do still strongly believe in the freshness of beers, and particularly something like a really hoppy IPA, the freshness is really critical. So we brew these beers, and they're big beers, about 7% generally, double IPAs and things, really hoppy beers, amazing when they come out.
Yeah.
They have an 8-week dead by date on it. So if they're not sold by the end of 8 weeks, we'll actually go into every one of those stores and we'll take them back out of the stores and we'll pay the people back the cash.
Oh, wow.
To make sure that these beers are only available for 8 weeks. Hence the name "Sleep When You're Dead." You've got to buy it when it's there.
When it's there.
Yeah, because you obviously don't want somebody grabbing that 3 months old drinking and go, oh my
That's
god,
terrible.
this is just
It won't be terrible, but it won't be the
That's
beer
good.
that we want you to taste, which is this amazingly fresh beer.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you're buying it at 1 or 2 months, it's as good as the beer that's coming off our tap.
Off your tap, yeah.
And that one as well, everything is cold chained as well, so it never heats up. And heat's a real enemy to beers. If it's warm, it ages faster. It's young and it's been cold chained, so it's in its best possible condition for those 8 weeks. Except for, as I discovered on my holiday in Alice Springs, I found some beers there that we didn't even know were being sold up there, and then there was some "Sleep When You're Dead" there, so I had to buy all of those and drink them myself. Just to get
All right,
So can I come in? Sorry, can I come into your Springfield and fill up my 2 litre growlers?
Yes.
Is that the largest thing that you fill at Springfield? A
It
2
is,
litre
yes.
growler?
Yeah, we'll just do the growlers.
Yeah.
I love the idea. In some ways, I still think you're actually better having a can, because the other enemy besides heat, or one of the other enemies besides heat on beer, is oxygen.
Oxygen, yeah.
And the growler, there's always that chance. We do blow the oxygen out with CO2.
Oh, right.
So that protects it, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's a very agricultural way we're doing it. So drink it, you'll see on the bottles it says it's fantastic for the first 24 hours.
So you've got to drink 2 litres in 24 hours to get the best out of
you'll
it.
get a couple of days, 3 days out of it. But really, if you're going a growler, get it to take somewhere or to take home and consume as soon as possible. Otherwise, go with our cans.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I mean, you get through these pretty quickly, especially when there's events and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But how long does, you got?
Well, they say
20 litres?
6 weeks, and then I meant 20 litres in 6 weeks. I meant
okay.
It's about the day that I need.
And what's the standard glass? Because this is what I wanted to get onto as well. So I heard the other day that I think it was someone from England or something said that Australia has the most confusing glass sizes because I don't know, like a pint midi, etc. Like every state's different.
Yes.
Yeah, a midi is a schooner in New South Wales. No, a midi is a pot in New South Wales.
But there's also, and I'm going to get this wrong, but I think South Australia's got a pint that's not a pint, or they've got a schooner that's not a schooner size.
Yeah.
So there's the same name but different volumes in 2 different states.
Because the schooner in Queensland is 470, right?
475, yeah.
475, yeah.
But so that's what I'm hearing
A pint
is
is 6.
Oh, sorry, 425.
425. And then a pint is 680?
Yeah.
580.
580.
So
Yes,
someone will
glad
go
you're
from
here.
Queensland to South Australia and ask for something and get something totally different. Go to New South Wales, totally
And
different.
they have South Australia has butchers as well, which is a little tiny one.
Is that a 7 ounce?
I don't know whether there's even smaller than that.
That's 200 mil. Okay, even smaller than
200,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's the old 7 ounce glass set.
So
Yeah.
what's this
Yeah.
size
So
called?
it's a schooner.
That's a schooner.
That's a schooner.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
right.
okay, so
yeah.
I'm just trying to work out. So then that's what you say about 725.
No, 425.
Oh, 425. Right. Okay.
So you get 4 growlers in there. Like if you get four schooners out of a growler is
Yeah.
what you'd work on, right? So
Yeah.
if you're going to sit down and have 4 schooners, go get a
Yeah.
growler.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
understood.
enjoy that. So what did you do before Ballistic?
Homebrew.
Yeah, obviously.
That's what I'm
So like
guessing.
obviously 2016, you don't just wake up and go, I'm going to start a brewing company.
No, but in 2020 I woke up and said I'm going to...
Sell a brewing? No. No, sorry.
I was working with the government. I worked for Foreign Affairs for a bunch of years.
Right.
And overseas a lot, and my wife said, time to go home. So I got a posting back to Brisbane.
Ah.
But while I was in Brisbane, we wound up buying a house. My daughter went into ballet school. We got a cat. I got a lawnmower, and that was the end of my career. So,
Cat lawnmower.
unfortunately, the two haven't met yet either. I didn't say that.
I don't think that works out.
And I'd been looking through business for sale to find something to get out into,
Right.
and noticed there was a homebrew store around the corner from me that was up for sale. And having just paid for all of the grog for my family for Christmas, said to my brother, we should just go halves on this thing for a bit of fun, get a bit of free beer, and maybe make a little bit of money out
So
of
you'd never done homebrew prior to
it.
this?
Never done it.
Wow.
But you
And-
obviously like you drink a lot of beer and had an
Well,
interest
no, I was
in it,
actually a
or-
wine drinker.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So
Right.
one of the joys of being posted overseas is all the wine's tax free, and really good wine is
Yep.
really cheap when you're not paying tax.
Yeah.
So so I mostly drank wine.
Yeah.
So I think the only thing I was really good at overseas was actually running the bars in the embassy. So that may have been a bit of a clue for me. But we went and had a chat to this guy, and he said, "Yeah, I'm for sale, but by the way, I've got a mate on the other side of town." Over at Stafford, that's got the same logos and everything. We thought, well, again, ignorance and arrogance. Two's better than one, so
Wow.
we had a look at that and we went and saw the suppliers, and I thought actually there's a third one for sale just down the road, and it's better than those two. So we bought all 3,
Whoa.
and then we bought 2 more over the next 4 or 5 months. And about that point, I could no longer conscionably draw a salary from the government, and wound up running a home brew company. So
Wow.
I ran that for 16 years.
So,
Oh,
so
wow.
coming from wine, like I'm just trying to picture this, right?
Yeah.
If someone was to map
Left
out a
turns.
career,
Left turns.
yeah, you go,
Lots of
you know, government, you know, a wine drinker. Were you sitting there working in your home brew shops, asking your customers for advice when they're coming in?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Basically,
thinking. It's like you come in and they go,
and
"Can I visit?" And I'm like, "What is that?"
my managers and so forth as well. So I never, well, I always did wind up working in the stores, but the aim was not for me to run a store,
Yeah.
to actually have
Just employ
competent people
Yeah,
to run those stores.
Yeah.
And I was actually an accountant originally.
Right.
Yeah.
And travelled around, liked the idea of travelling. When the government offered me a job travelling, I thought, well, they can pay for it instead of me. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, done.
so then towards the end of my time in the homebrew stores, that was just at the beginning of craft beer in Queensland, and we had some really brilliant home brewers in Brisbane
Yeah, right.
who were starting to brew beers at a couple of places and get them onto bars around Brisbane. And it seemed to me that there was an opportunity within our business that if we actually bought a small little kit, we could train people how to take that step from home brew. And pissing in my own pocket at the moment, but we actually really focused in our chain of stores on making brilliant beer, not cheap beer.
Yep.
So we were at the brewers. I think we had it broken up like from the drinkers through to the brewers as a customer continuum, and we were focusing on the brewers rather than
Yep.
drinkers.
Yep.
The people who wanted cheap versus those.
Yes.
So I thought, well, we could have this kit. People would come and learn how to do a bit more commercial. It would actually produce some commercial amounts. It would be like 20, 30, 40,000 dollars worth of kit to do it.
To set up. Yep.
A friend of mine from my time in Hong Kong made more money than he could poke a stick at. Said, you've got a project that I can invest in. I said, well, how about this little brewery? And he said, do the numbers. I did the numbers. Didn't really add up because there just weren't enough people at that point interested in moving up. There were some, but not enough to warrant it. And I said, no, we'd have to do a big ass brewery, get a bit of credibility, and then maybe we could do that training there. So it was still all about training brewers.
Yeah.
And I did the numbers, and we came out at I think 660,000. And
Yep.
he said, "Yep." And with a group of shareholders, just one. And about $1.1 million later, we opened Salisbury.
Salisbury, yeah.
We don't run a training facility.
Have you thought about that?
Sorry?
Would you do that now? Would you train people?
Yes. Yes, in a number of different ways, because we want to set up what I want to call Ballistic University, which I want it to be not unlike the Jim's University. I know, Jim's lawn mowing, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He has a campus somewhere down in Victoria where...
Does he?
Yeah, before you get a Jim's franchise,
Yeah.
you go down, you actually learn things like... It's all well and good to say, I want to run a company mowing lawns, but you still got to do your bookwork.
That's
you still got
right.
to know a little bit about marketing. You've still got to actually mow lawns in a Jim acceptable way.
That's right.
If you want to maintain your Jim franchise. And at Ballistic, we've got, I don't know, it's probably close to 60 hospitality staff of differing levels across the venues, and that's going to only going to keep on increasing. We want to have professional hospitality people rather than just the the students that are paying for their way through university and that sort of stuff. They're great, and we need them.
Yes.
But we also want to develop this core of really high quality hospitality people. I'm talking to my new manager John down at Springfield tonight, and just the observation he's brought in, because he's come out of a big chain hospitality thing, and he said, I'd say, what have you done to turn this around a bit? And he said, well, just really basic things. I've done this, and this. And I think, God, there's 4 things that I don't know about, and we need to be training them. And if we can give our hospitality staff training and a career progression, we'll actually keep them. Because it's COVID's killed the hospitality industry, not just because there's no hospitality, but chefs and waiters and things have gone and got a real job and discovered actually life's way better working 9 to 5 than it is doing 70 hours a week in a kitchen.
Exactly.
So we've got to be making it far more attractive for them. So I want Ballistic University.
Wow.
And that will then roll out to management training of the people within the rest of the business and a whole lot of other things as well. But hospitality is the first focus and additional training for and for the brewers as well, because the brewers actually need to get qualifications and so on as well.
Or you want to put out the same beer if you're making that in Townsville, Bundaberg, wherever you branch to. You've got to have the same flavours. And do you find a difference in the water around? Like the brewers might know a bit more about this, but I know that water quality in the different areas also, can that change the taste of your beer?
It absolutely does. I'll only go slightly nerdy on this because
that's okay.
There is a whole subject called water chemistry, and I've sat through 2 or 3 lectures on this, and 3 hours of my life I'll never get back.
It's a bit like the Notebook.
Yes. But water makes a very big difference. So depending on how hard, how soft the water is, really basic level, it'll determine on how much the hops shine or how much the malt shines. So, and what's happened in history is people have brewed 18 different beers in one place. So for instance, in Pilsen in the Czech Republic, they would have brewed 20 different beers, but then discovered that one beer actually tasted really great in Pilsen. Now, if I get this the right way around, what they didn't know, because they didn't have the chemistry at the time, was that the water in Pilsen, which is the home of Pilsner, very, very soft water, highlights the hops, great for making these bright Pilsnery styles of beer. Go to the other end of the world over in England, Burton-on-Trent, famous for the ales in England in the 1800s and so on. Made 100 different beers, discovered these malty ales seemed to be the best thing that they can make there. It happened to have really hard water, and hard water enhances the flavour of malt.
Yes.
You go to Dublin, they made 100 different beers, discovered that this particular dry stout was great, and the water in Dublin, I'm not even going to try and get this right because I'll get it wrong, but the water in Dublin managed to offset the I think the bitterness and the acidity of the really dark burnt grain that they used to make the dark stouts. So people discovered this stuff by trial and error. Now we have the chemistry to do it, and we know that we use calcium carbonate, calcium sulfate to harden the water, soften the water, etc., etc.
So you do that prior to brewing?
We do it, yes. So
you get your water consistent.
Yeah.
So in all your locations.
What we do, well, no, we don't. Yes, we do in all the locations, but in Salisbury, our main brewery, what we do is we run a big ass reverse osmosis plant,
Yep.
which pretty much strips everything out of Brisbane water that we don't want.
Yep.
Leaves a little bit in so there's some minerals and nutrients to feed the yeast.
Yep.
But basically, it's like stripping the water back to a clean palate. And one of the skills of the brewer then is to add in the different components to get exactly the right water profile to enhance that bit of the flavour that you want. And if we're making a Pilsner and my head brewer drinks it and thinks, well, you know, those hops aren't quite as dominant as I'd like them to do, you might just alter the water profile slightly and bang, all of a sudden the hops are shining out in the beer and so forth. So
Wow.
one of the skills of brewing. Yeah.
That's unreal. Yeah, I knew water made a big difference from what I'd heard.
Yeah,
I've done some brew tours and stuff. Yeah.
So
these
ads that say, you know, it's brewed on mountain water, you know, in the back of Tasmania and so forth, I can guarantee you all that water runs straight through an RO plant before they do anything.
Yeah, right.
So it's a nice story.
Yeah.
And with bottled water would be the same, right? All these places that say it's such and such spring water, they'd be treating and doing something
absolutely.
with their water.
So look, I don't diss any company that uses
definitely
that because that actually gives you this much more control over what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Because consistency is the thing.
Well, that's your business.
10 years ago in craft breweries, you could be variable and say it's craft. Now, craft beers, it's got to be 100%
Well,
consistent.
that's right. People aren't drinking VB anymore.
Can we do another
You know
one?
what I mean? Like, it's another one? Sure.
Well, I'm keeping an eye on the time, so just I want to make sure we wrap this up before the hour for the free YouTube edition.
All right.
Unless we want subscribers to find out how good I am at tasting beer.
Yes, don't tell them the answers though. Just,
No,
you've got to subscribe to find
buy
the
the
answer.
subscription, right? It's $5 a month to support the Ted Shed, and you get the extended edition where I actually reveal how good
Would
I
you
am.
like another beer?
I'd love another beer.
Which one would you like?
Right,
I
so-
would try. He's done the Twain, so let me go with the
Twain?
Twain.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to say. Oh, hang on, I think I'm. Yeah, to me, that tastes. I'm going to go that's the pale ale.
That's
Right.
the pale ale.
Do you want to clue it all or not?
No, don't tell me because for me, right.
Monster.
Well,
sorry.
let me
I'm running out of cold glasses.
explain the way I've come to that conclusion. That tastes more like a beer that my dad would have given me as a kid.
Ah.
Right, so I'm thinking it's definitely not a watermelon and that. And I can't taste the difference between carb, but I guarantee the fourth one that I have, if it tastes like watermelon, I think these
Well, you've got to
two.
take a guess, mate. Which one are you?
Well, I've got to have the watermelon yet. So.
Oh, okay. All right. No worries.
Well, that
That's
could
the
be
Twain
that
done.
could be the watermelon. I don't know. So far that's where I'm at. I'm shooting.
That's where you're at.
1 for 1. So give me the fourth one,
Yeah, all right.
and I'll see if I can wrap this up and how good I
Well,
am.
the fourth one's in a nice glass. Be careful you don't spill it on yourself.
Is it in the boot?
It's in the
So
boot.
just while you're doing it, always a glass for 2 good reasons.
Yes.
3 good reasons.
You can see.
Sorry,
Depending,
mate.
How he
depending on
pours
what
it
you
in.
read, somewhere between 30 and 80% of your taste actually is what you can smell.
Right.
If you've got a cold, you can't taste your food.
Yeah.
If you close your nose, you can't taste the beer. And I spend hundreds of money putting hops into this so that it's got an amazing aroma and an amazing taste.
Yep.
If you're drinking it out of an orifice about that big, either out of your can or out of your bottle, you're not smelling a damn thing. You've
But
just
you're-
lost 30%.
You're really
Somewhere between 30 and 80% of the flavour of your beer because you can't
smelling the
smell
top
it.
of the can.
wow.
Like if you're
Yeah.
drinking out of a can, you're smelling whatever. That's
Yeah.
You're only getting
aluminium,
part of it.
yeah.
When you pour it into a glass and that head is dispelling that aroma as you drink it. Your nose is there, you're getting a full smell of it as you go, and so you're actually massively enhancing it.
That's
The other really critical thing on this is that because oxygen's so bad for your beer,
Yep.
when we can these things, we make sure that with the growlers, we fill it full of CO2 first, and we work to have no oxygen in that beer, only CO2, down to the point where it's less than 100 parts per billion,
Wow.
I think it is. Full of CO2.
Yep.
So if you take it straight out of the can, out of the bottle, you're taking all that CO2 straight down here. That's when you start bloating and you can't drink as much. Put it into a glass, blows off the CO2. You can drink 3 times as much of my beer as you
there
would
you
normally.
go.
There you go.
All right, I think I'm ready to have a crack.
Okay,
Right,
go.
So that one you just poured me is watermelon.
Definitely is.
Right, that
yes.
one that you gave me before, which you knew was the Twain.
Yep.
I'm going to say that's the second last one you just gave me. Right, I reckon that's the pale ale. Right, and that first one was the low carb ale.
Can I give you one hint?
I'm wrong, obviously.
Oh, these are right.
Yeah.
Obviously, right. So if that's called Hawaiian Haze, do you think it'd be a clean beer?
That was a clue. It's all on the can.
But mind you, see, there's that. To me, they taste very similar.
Yeah, but as in like it's haze. It's not clean. Yeah.
4 from 4.
Well done,
Look at me
Jason.
go. Okay. No, see, my brain wasn't even looking at the consistency of it. It was really going...
You're more worried about the taste.
Well, I thought that a low carb would have tasted different. And like I said, for me, that like an ale, I think, is a normal beer. That tastes like a normal beer to me. And that's why my brain...
That's actually a really positive thing, because most low carb beers...
don't taste like...
Well, they're pretty flavoursome. And flavourless.
Yeah.
And if you think that low carb has pretty good flavour in it, then we've achieved what we want to do. Because
there you go.
There's only... I don't want to upset one of our colleagues, but really in terms of low carb beers with a real hop profile and so forth, that is the only one in Australia. So,
yeah, right. I'll have to try that when I...
Yeah, there's the gas. And for me, like as a non-beer drinker, you know, what was really interesting is each one of those for me is very distinct.
Yep.
Right, and I actually quite enjoyed, like I said, that twang for me is actually something I could drink.
Stop it.
No, I'm serious.
Should
like
I put some in the fridge for you? Jackson could have a beer in the tent shed.
There's a carton of twang coming your way.
I'll make sure.
I think I've given you the mojito. So the last one which you still have is a Pina Colada. So it'll have a bit of coconut and...
Pina Colada?
What's in a Pina Colada? Coconut and something.
So that's another one down there we haven't tested?
No, sorry. That's just... So that twang changes about every 3 months. We come up with a new flavour, and we're just running cocktails at the moment. So there's another one ready to come out in a little while as well.
Wow,
so,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Because for me that wasn't, like I said, when I tried this one, that was for me like old school beer that I'd probably, you know, my brain goes, because like I said, don't drink. I would have had some as a kid or whatever. I've gone, no, that taste is not something I enjoy.
Yeah.
But drinking that, like I said, that there's just...
Jesus. You
It's
changed
actually-
him. Done well, Dave.
No, I don't know. And I've probably had more to drink tonight than I have in the last 20 years, so...
You got the right to drive home?
There we go, yeah. Oh,
Have we got a chair with a back on it?
Hold on to the bar. No, look, and look, the thing that I love is I've been to wineries with my wife and stuff, and you know, you're right about, because when I picked that one up before, like the smell in that, I'm just going, wow, it's really sweet and it's amazing. But going to a winery is the same for me. I don't drink, but when you're talking to someone, they're doing the tour and go, oh, it's woody, this and that, you can actually pick those scents up just by smelling them, right?
The thing that I like over beer is over wine. The thing I like about beer is over wine, though. I always think of the little instant, what's it, instant casket scratchies?
Oh, yeah.
No, the casket scratchies.
Yeah. The $1 ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the little guy rolls a drum and there's a thrill in every scratch.
Yeah.
It's the same with craft beer, so you can go and buy a can. You have no idea what it's going to taste like until the moment you pour it and have a sip.
Yeah.
I'll get shot down by the winemakers, really. But the difference between his Shiraz and that Shiraz, or that New Zealand Sauv Blanc versus that New Zealand Sauv Blanc, it's not that different.
Yeah.
These can be so utterly different and still so pale ale on.
Yeah.
And we work with so many different variables. Like you look at the back of the can and there's 2 grains, there's probably 3 hops. This one's got some fruit in there as well. And he says it's 400 yeast, there's 50 different grains, there's 100 different hops. And so, you know, you do the maths, but it's probably like 12 million variations.
You can make, that's right.
But this is bugs in it as well. Like what's...
So it'll be the lactobacillus.
Yeah,
I would
right.
assume.
Oh, does it say bugs?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it says bugs. Right, it says malt, yeast, fruit, bugs, and others, right?
Lactobacillus plantarum.
So that's bacteria, effectively. You call it bugs.
So it's what makes your milk yogurt.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. Do you find the beers like in Coles and Woolies that you have to make for 9 months shelf life? Do you reckon they give people more of a hangover because of the preservative level?
No, certainly no preservatives in any craft beer.
Oh, okay.
But almost
Hormone free as well if you're Coles.
Um,
Even though their meats are hormone free to start with.
I would think you're probably reasonably safe to say in any Australian beer, including commercials, there'll be no preservatives.
Oh, right, there you go.
The one of the big differences, you would have heard our big brothers talk once or twice. They've done campaigns about our 5th element is time. So in those cases, we're talking about a beer that was being made and out and finished within 3 days, now maybe going to 5 days. These beers, some of these are anything up to a month in tank.
Wow.
If you're forcing your yeasts to do work at ridiculous rates, it'll start excreting things that are more inclined. This is my understanding, and I'm not a chemist, but more inclined to give you the hangovers than than things that are given the right amount of time to do. So the reason we take a month, most brewing's done within about a week to 10 days probably, and then we let it settle. But getting it at the right temperature and letting the yeast work at its comfortable level means the yeast just does a really nice job. And when I explain this to people on tours and things, if you go out in the yard and it's a cool autumn day, you can work for hours and hours and hours. If you go out there and it's snowing, or it was like yesterday when it's freezing cold, you can last a little while out there and you say, fucking, I'm going home. You're allowed to say that, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're out there and it's stinking hot, you're just sweating and you stink and it's really completely unpleasant. And yeast are exactly the same. You put yeast in that nice autumn day kind of thing. Yeast will do its job and it'll work all day and it'll be nice and everything. You cool it down too much, it'll just shut down and won't do anything at all. Yeah, right. If your tank's higher, it'll work faster, so you can brew through in 2 days or 3 days.
Yeah.
But it's sweating like a bastard when it's doing that, and that's, I think, is what's generating some of these hangover issues that you won't necessarily get, or as much in some things. None of my homebrew beers ever gave hangovers.
Is that right?
Because it was all just very carefully. I used temperature control on it and made sure they just run gently up to finish point, and then give them the time to do its job.
Yeah, right, and that's probably why your golds and that give you that hangover, eh? You know, like if you drink too much, well, you wouldn't know, but I find, and I know through my mates and stuff, like they go, I can't drink that beer because it gives me a hangover, it gives me a headache, and they'll change to a different beer just to try and get around that because, I guess that's probably why.
Wow, that's interesting.
Tell them just to drink craft beer. Drink less, drink better.
Drink less, drink better. Yeah,
just grab a twang or
the drinkers,
twang or a watermelon.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're starting to get near the end of time. So last drinks. So we've got something for you for coming in. I know you obviously wear your Ballistic shirt proudly, but
Ted shirt.
We've got a Ted shirt shirt for you to
wear.
wear.
Wear that proudly as well.
A fine one. Yeah. There you go. Get in the box.
Large.
Yes.
Size.
Shirt size?
Yes.
Or beer. Glass.
I didn't say length. Where are we? Make sure it's not a ladies' shirt. There we go.
Brilliant.
That's for you, my friend.
Brilliant.
Wear it with pride.
I will wear it with pride.
Yes. And thanks for coming in.
So you can wear that the next time there's a trivia night if you need to make up numbers on the team. The Ted Shed
Give me a
tribute
call.
to.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're the only one who come in theme, but I don't know if you've seen the photo, but
we're terrible, mate.
Photos and everyone rocks up and they're all wearing Ted Shed shirts and take a photo and that, and I think it's a bit of fun, right?
It is a bit of fun. That's what it's about, right? And like you said, it's a community thing, and that's what it's it's what we're here for, eh?
Yeah, those things are great to get people in. I mean, obviously there's a commercial reason why you do them, but for people in the community, it's great to have.
It's a night out that doesn't cost anything but a couple of beers, and
that's what we want. We want to be part of the community and to enhance it. I was sitting with the Office of Liquor and Gaming Regulation this morning. They're doing some.
That must have been.
It wasn't as bad as
tonight's a highlight.
But it wasn't as bad as potentially it could. But it was where should the office go in the future? And
there's a few choice words for that one, right?
Yeah, no, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
But no, so
really ballistics.
Yeah, we were talking about events and.
So we're looking at the commissioner, who actually is a very fine lady. One of the questions said, "What is the negative externalities of alcohol?" So it's what's the other effects of alcohol, and it's things like the increase in hospital costs because of people something else.
That's right.
And I thought, well, what about the positive externalities? I know that the properties around our brewery in that suburb, the value is actually probably been incremental because now our suburb actually has a social hub and it has some activity and some brightness and vibrance. We just happen to be a historical anomaly because it was settled by a lot of the soldiers coming back from World War II. They've gradually passed away. Their wives, 10 years later, gradually passed away. So our suburb over the last 10 years or so has completely morphed from being this suburb full of older people to now blocks being split, 2 families, 4 kids, 4 parents, completely changed over the last 10 years. And now we actually have this bright, vibrant suburb, and so I think I telling OLGR that I think we're actually a value accretive business.
But you're not a venue full of poker machines and everything else like that. These just little dens and stuff like that. That's what I don't get with those old school pubs. I go because I travel a bit, and you go into those regional towns, and they've still got the traditional bar. but then just out the back, let's just...
Well, that funds the pub, mate, most of the
Yeah,
time,
well,
doesn't
I
it?
get
Well,
that.
that was one of the negative externalities, was the prevalence of incredibly badly designed carpet, because they all the worst bloody carpet in the world. Horrible.
Ken Doan on repeat by the square metre.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Can I ask you, right, so I'll finish on one more question for you then. What's the future of Ballistic? Where do you see it? Like,
World
what's-
domination.
I know a board game named that.
Yeah, there
No,
was. Another story.
more venues up the coast.
Yeah.
When
Hopefully
you
hopefully
say
one
up the coast, you're talking like Sunshine Coast or
North.
far north Queensland?
well, we actually aren't even in North Brisbane, so I'd love to be in North Brisbane.
Yeah.
That'd be one of it. Sunshine Coast is really difficult because there's quite a number of really good breweries there now. But
Yeah.
I think Longreach, Gladstone,
Yeah, nice.
Townsville, Mackay, all possibilities, and we'd love to be up there, I think. And,
Yeah.
but we'd also wouldn't mind being. I think Toowoomba's would be a great place to be.
I agree.
So.
Easy to keep your beer cold up.
Yeah, we don't need a cold room, do we?
Exactly. Go on. That's actually that's a plus.
To the new quarantine centre. I'm sure
Shit,
I'll
yeah.
get some beer.
Well, and there's Wellcamp Airport there, so if you
Yeah.
want to start exporting, airport there.
Straight out.
That's
Yeah,
it.
So I think I would like to see over the next year we'll have more venues north, possibly south, but we'll see where the world goes down the track. So I think that's very definitely a direction for us. Other than that, I think I think that's probably the major thing for us. We'll just keep building new and interesting beers.
Yeah.
If we're lucky, we'll get some more business with the big guys for distribution. But in the meantime, Queensland's very much our focus, I think, for the next year and a half, and we'll see.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Now, before you wrap up,
Yeah.
I'd like to say cheers to you guys as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to do it with my new favourite beer.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I think it's amazing what you guys do. I love. There's lots of talk about mental health and everything else. I think people who actually get up and do something about it, that's brilliant. And there are questions, and I grapple with these with our business about alcohol with mental health, but at the same time, being a male, this is how males talk. Males don't talk unless they're actually sitting around having a beer and doing stuff. We're pretty crap at it. So
exactly.
providing the opportunities and encouraging that, I think, is an admirable thing. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Excellent. All right, and on that note, we're going to wrap. We'll use this camera here. Thanks for joining us here in the Ted Shed. It was fantastic meeting the man behind Ballistic. So if you're in Springfield or in those other regions,
Early Beach.
Early Beach sounds like the next holiday. Just drop in, and if not, look in your local bottle shop for the range of Ballistic beers, because I'll tell you what, as I said, as a non-drinker, this one's all right. So I'm going to recommend the go with the twang. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us here in the shed. It was an absolute pleasure to have David in here with us. Make sure you get down to Ballistic and check out these beers.
Absolutely.
My recommendation is definitely to go the twang. So that's a limited time beer though, right?
Twang as a concept is always available.
As always,
but
right.
the flavour will change every quarter.
So if you go into Ballistic, mention my name and say that one, they'll have no idea what you're talking about. All right, so thanks for joining us, and what do you reckon our viewers should do now?
Well, two things. One, drink my beer.
Yes.
And two, support these guys. They're doing an amazing job. So sign up for the private membership,
subscription. That's it.
and help them along too.
Fantastic. Thanks for your support. Thanks for
Well,
coming in.
yeah, thanks,
And thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Cheers.